Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Warhammer Warcry for the channel, and today the Scions of the Flame make their debut, originally from the Catacombs box, going up against a kind of mixed list of the Iron Golems with some very large help. A list that's actually been on the channel before. So let's start with the new people on the block, the Scions of the Flame, broken into Dagger Hammer Shield 233, and lots of copyrightable unique names that are going to be hard to remember. So in the Dagger we have the leader, the hero, which is the Blazing Lord, very cool looking, and he is backed up by the Infernal Priest. Then in the Hammer we have this guy at the back here is the Brazen Champion, and then we have a Fireborn here and a Initiate, I believe. Is this the Initiate? Initiate? Yes, this is the Initiate with a brazier weapon and flame burst pot. Then in the shield we have the Immolator. He's the easiest one to remember because he's just a dude on fire. We have another Fireborn right here. Oh, and that was a Fireborn with Sunblade and Crysknife. This one's just a Fireborn. I guess they have slightly different setups. And then another Initiate with a Morning Star, right? Yeah, Morning Star. So roughly 985, I think it is, points wise. And we'll see how they do. They're in a snowy terrain today, so they're not in their home element. They're not in the Catacombs. Speaking of the Catacombs, that was the last time this list was seen, or on a Catacomb-esque map using the missions from those sets. The Iron Golems list here did not do well the last time they were on, because the big help they brought, the Centurion Marshal over here, kind of had a hard time getting around in the tight corners of the Catacombs, and I believe the Ogre Breacher collapsed on a... or rather the thing he was standing on collapsed and he fell into a well of souls and died instantly. So they didn't have a good time, but trying this list again. So Dagger Hammer Shield 222, and we have the Dominar and the Armator, the bravest little Chaos Dwarf ever. Then we have the Signifier with the Ogre Breacher, one of the heavy hitters, and then we have the massive Centurion Marshal on the end there in the shield, with a bog standard Iron Legionnaire with the mace plus shield setup. So on an open field, lots of space to move around. Hopefully the Marshal will be able to just get around and cause havoc. Like, he can do a scary amount of damage, he's just got to have that ability to just get around. Like 10-inch move is insane on such a small table area. So we'll see if he does better today. So then all that means is we have to randomise ourselves a mission using the old Catacomb cards, and if we get one that says 3-turn game, it is a 4-turn game. That's the only stipulation. And I'm just going to cut this deck randomly, let's say here, and that's going to be 1, and then our deployment type, and just shuffling it a little bit to prove it's shuffled, and then we shall say here. Those are our missions, and let's see what they are, starting with our objective. The Messenger. The players roll off and the winner chooses whose attacker, whose defender. The defender secretly picks a fighter in their warband to be the I think we've done this one before. To be the messenger and notes this down. The attacker then picks two... Oh yeah, it was that one that was super quick because the Sylvaneth could just walk off the table. That's what it was. The defender secretly picks a fighter in their warband to be the messenger. The attacker then picks 2 battlefield edges to be escape routes. You know, we have done this one before, that was that, and it doesn't really work. Let's pick a different one, because that was that super short one with the Sylvaneth. So let's try Crush, that sounds pleasant. The players roll off, and the winner decides whose attacker and whose defender. If every fighter in the defender's dagger is taken down, the attacker wins the battle. Otherwise, at the end of the 4th battle round, the defender wins the battle. Any fighters from the defender's dagger that are within 4 inches of the battlefield edge at the end of a battle round immediately count as being taken down to force them into the centre so they can't hide. That makes sense. You don't make an entry roll, they're just killed. That's much more like it. There we go. And the deployment type. So daggers matter. Oh, and only daggers start on the field, with shields coming in round 2 and hammers coming in real late in round 3. First blood. How very apt. Alright, we'll get this set up, decide who's attacker, who's defender, etc., and be back after this quick word from my channel sponsor. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. Well, there wasn't much setup to do because there's only 2 models for each side on the table. The Scions of the Flame won the roll-off and have decided to be the attackers because they want to murder. So their objective to win the game is to kill the Dominar and the plucky little Chaos Dwarf Armator. If they die, that's game over in the Scions of the Flame's favour. but they obviously have that large backup arriving at turn 2. It is worth noting, though, just so we're clear about where reinforcements are coming on, their first set of reinforcements are actually going to be coming in down here. They also can't end a turn within 4 inches of a battlefield edge, or some unspeakable horror will drag them into the dark and murder them. And they are only going to get back up round 3 right next to them, but that's after some more attackers have appeared. So they're pretty penned in, actually. They've got to be real careful. So this initial burst, like early damage before the Centurion Marshal can come and help them, is going to be super crucial, I think. So on that note, let's go to the dice for turn 1. I can speak. Turn 1. Both sides very much wanted that first activation. Sounds of the Flame rolled a 5/5/6 and have opted to bank their wild die for 3 singles. The Iron Golems rolled 5/5/2, also opted to keep their singles, so it came down to a pure roll off, and the Scions of the Flame have won that. So let's go to their first activation in round 1 of 4, or until such time as their dagger is wiped out. So the Blazing Lord himself got the game started, and something to note about the Scions of the Flame is that they are slow. They are Nurgle slow, but they don't support Nurgle as far as I'm aware. Yeah, they all move 4 inches, which isn't great. So a 5/5, one of their pairs of doubles, was spent on rush because that was necessary for 2 actions to get him into close combat. So he can't do anything this round, but he is in a position to hopefully hurt him. But the Dominar absolutely could just do a fallback if he's choosing to run. Stat-wise, they are both incredibly similar. Same number of wounds, same toughness, same move stat. Iron Golems are not particularly fast either. The poor little dwarf is 3 inches. He's actually the slowest on the table. Fastest by a country mile is the Centurion Marshal once he's here. But attacks, strength-wise, damage split, the Blazing Lord has a slight edge there, but not much. So the Dominar activated first for the Iron Golems and struck at the Blazing Lord. 3 attack, strength 5 versus toughness 4 with a 2/5 damage split. He did pretty well. He got 2 normal hits through and 1 crit for a total of 9 of his 20 wounds. He could have tried his luck, attacked again, probably wouldn't have killed him, but got him close. Instead, he opted to fall back and just get out of close combat. And final activation of the first turn for the Scions of the Flame was the Infernal Priest. Spent their other double on rush because wanted to get into a better position to corner that sneaky dwarf, and has moved kind of a move and a half, wanting again just to kind of block in the air, because remember, you can go past people, but you are stuck in combat if you at any point stop within range of them. And she does have a ranged attack, but not enough to hit. And as I say, she moved twice. It's a 5-inch range normally. She'd be able to do it from where she is now, but it took her 2 actions to get there. And now it's over to the little Chaos Dwarf, the Armator, to see what he wants to do. With his legs being so very, very short, he had to spend a double on rush just to be able to get into combat in one move. The poor little thing. But he did, and then he struck out with those twin axes, 4 attack, strength 4 versus toughness 4, with a very disappointing 1/4 damage split. And the roll is right there. He was looking for 4s, got 1 normal hit through for a singular wound, which he does his best. And that takes us to the end of the first battle round. Nothing to report at the end of the first battle round. The Scions of the Flame are the only ones who took damage, and not the ones who are actually meant to die to reach a terminus, but they are bearing down on them. They're getting back up right next to, well, the top left of the map. Some very dangerous backup is coming in for the Iron Golems in the bottom right. We'll see those set up at the top of turn 2 before the dice. So at the top of the second of 4 rounds, here is where the backup for the defenders have appeared. And then just if we move in camera, over at the left of your screen, we can see the Fireborn, the Immolator, and then the Initiate over there is the backup for the attackers. So with that, let's go to the dice. The Scions of the Flame rolled a 4/4/3 and then 2 singles. They have used both wild dice to create a 5/5 and a 4/4. The Iron Golems had a 1/1/5. They've used one of their wild dice to create a 6/6, have retained 1 wild die, and are the ones who are going to be taking first activation in round 2. So round 2 inevitably got started with the Centurion Marshal because he wants to go crush something. He can move 10 inches, so he can basically go wherever he likes. And he chose to go into combat with the Infernal Priest and strike at them to try and save the little Chaos Dwarf. 3 attacks, strength 5 versus toughness 4. Oh, the roll's been moved out of the way. I think it was actually retained in terms of what the roll was, though here it is right here. It was 2 misses and 2 normal hits. He was really looking for those crits because he does 6 damage on a crit. But such as it is, that's 6 wounds through, so that's 7 damage to her in total, and she's a 15 wound model, so roughly half health, so to speak. The Blazing Lord was the first activation for the Scions of the Flame, and this time he did not want to or have to trap the Dominar and force him to do a fallback. So he did do a move action, but he stayed at 2 inches away because he has a 2-inch range on that gigantic sword slash katana slash Chris sword, whatever it is. And he struck at him. Not before though spending their double 5 on Beheading Strike. You half the value of the dice used for this, rounding up, so a 5 becomes a 3, and you add that to the critical damage dealt by your next attack that has a range characteristic of 3 or less. So his crits started doing 9 damage, and in total he got 1 crit and 2 normal hits through, so that's 10, 11, 12, 13, yeah, that's 13 wounds, wasn't it? Yep, that was 13 wounds. 13 wounds to Dominar's at 20 health, so that's quite a hefty chunk off of him. And yeah, he's hurting now, but not locked in combat, so he absolutely could flee. Spending their double 1 on rush, the Dominar did indeed flee. He first of all considered going into the combat against the Infernal Priest to try and finish her off because she doesn't have that many wounds left, but even with the rush adding an inch, it just was not enough to get him close. So he has fled down there. He is outside of 4 inches, just barely from the edge, so a Shadow Demon will not drag him into the dark and kill him at the end of the round, unfortunately. But he is indeed running away and hiding down where some of his friends are. The Infernal Priest was next up for the Scions of the Flame and went after that Chaos Dwarf, just attacking across 2 sets of attacks, making use of, well, she has a ranged weapon which you can't do. Actually, it doesn't have a minimum range, but not as strong as her physical attack anyway with that blazing staff of hers. It is 3 dice, strength 4 with a 2-4 split, going up against toughness 4, so she was looking for 4s, and managed to get 2 normals and a crit through against the dwarf for a total of 8 damage, which is actually a pretty healthy chunk off of him because he only has 12 wounds in total, so he has 4 left. The Arbiter activated and swung at the Infernal Priest, but not before spending their double on the Universal +1 to attack Onslaught. Is that? I think it's Onslaught. Whichever one gives you +1 attack. So that was 5 attacks at strength 4 versus toughness 4. He got 2 crits through for 8 damage on top of the 7 damage she already had. That's precisely 15 wounds, and that's how many she has. So, first blood to the plucky young dwarf, because that is the Infernal Priest out there. And then for his second action, he fled his mighty 3 inches as far away from danger as possible. So it's probably going to be a bunch of moving now just because everyone else is not involved in the current combats happening. The Scions of the Flame activated their initiate with Morningstar. He spent their double for a rush and has moved twice, so a total of 8 inches there. He's trying to cut off the dwarf basically since he's faster than him. And the final activation of round 2 for the Iron Golems was the Iron Legionnaire with shield, and he just moved twice. And it's probably worth him doing that because the reinforcements for the attackers are going to be appearing off to his right, so he's going to be in danger. They are going to kind of pen in the 2 they have to kill, so it's just a case of kind of isolating them around the bigger threats. There's 2 activations left for the Scions of the Flame, the Immolator and the Fireborn, just the basic Fireborn. They can only move, so I will just show you where they end up in a second. And from this angle you should hopefully get a good idea of where they ended up. The Immolator, right smack dab there. The Fireborn, where the initiate's on, and they're just trying to do, as I say, a pincer motion, and that takes us to the end of round 2. And on that note, no points to cover or anything like that. The Chaos Dwarf Armator is very close to death, just needs 4 more damage, and he is out of there. The Dominar, he's at what, 13? He's got 7 left, so they have been hurt, and they could absolutely just get taken down by 1 round of good combat if enough crits get rolled. So they've got to worry, because otherwise they'll get crushed. Let's go into the 3rd round. And at the top of round 3, here's where the final reinforcements have arrived for each side. They're hammers. The Iron Golems have their Ogre Breacher and Signifier. They both popped in right there, threatening the Immolator. And all the way around this other end of the table right here, we have ourselves the reinforcements for the Scions of the Flame. Another Fireborn, the other Initiate, and I've forgotten what the swole guy with the Fire Scythe is called. I'm going to have to cheat and look around here. Brazen Champion. Very cool, but very forgettable name. To the dice. And here is the dice result. The Scions of the Flame had a double 5, they have turned into a triple, and a single 6, they have turned into a double. The Iron Golems, the dice rolls haven't been great for them. double 3, they've turned it into a triple, and they want those singles to secure first activation. The first activation for the Iron Golems was once again the Centurion Marshal, who has, I guess you could say, caused a roadblock on purpose. He moved his mighty 10 inches into close combat with the Blazing Lord. Doesn't matter, he's dead. It was Blazing Lord. He swung at him, looking for 3s because it's strength 5 versus toughness 4. Got 2 normal hits and a crit through for 12 on top of the 9 he had already. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, and that's 1 more than was necessary. That unfortunately him and his cool sword have been splatted. And now the Marshal is just sitting there, causing a great inconvenience to anyone hoping to get past him to where the Dominar is. The Immolator activated for the Scions of Flame used their double on Rush, and that 5 inches was able to get him up onto this ledge from where he was. He was right next to that stone there, and then another one with a drop down put him into combat with the Dominar, but unable to do anything. Unfortunately, because he had to do that rush, he couldn't spend on a different power, because he could have done Inferno for their triple and done some damage with that, but at least he's putting pressure on the Dominar, because the Dominar can't flee any closer to the edge of the table. He can only flee either towards the Marshal north or to the east. In either a stroke of genius or madness, the Armator activated, spent their triple as a double to do rush, in order that he had enough distance to get to the base of the stairs, and then from the base of the stairs to the top of the stairs, atop his castle, and is just hoping to hide and survive there until the end of the final turn. The Brazen Champion activated for the Scions of the Flame. Isn't it weird that it's Brazen Champion but Blazing Lord? Shouldn't it be Blazing Champion? Well, either way. He activated and just moved twice. He's not quite within an inch of the Legionnaire there, but is certainly putting pressure on him, and also just hoping to get near where the dwarf is. Over the other end of the table, the Ogre Breacher activated and just did 2 move actions. Over there, heading towards the Initiate and the flaming, what is he called? The Fireborn, not the Flameborn, the Fireborn. The Initiate with Morningstar activated and moved, and he actually has a 3-inch range with that Morningstar, so he stopped where you can see him and swung into the Iron Legionnaire. He's not powerful, it's a 1-3 damage split, 3 attack strength 3, so he was looking for 5s, but he did actually manage to get a normal and a crit through for a total of 4. You know, it's okay against a 10 wound model, so that Legionnaire's got 6 left. The Signifier activated and followed in right behind the Ogre Breacher, not doing anything else. The Fireborn with no additional adjectives or descriptors activated and has just moved into position alongside the Initiate there. He doesn't have a ranged attack, it took both moves to get him where you can see him. And final activation of the penultimate round for the Iron Golems was the Dominar, who did a disengage from the Immolator and then a move, and is hiding behind or alongside the Centurion Marshal, just hoping to get first activation, I guess, so the Centurion Marshal can come in and block for him in the final turn. And to end off the round were just 2 more activations from the Scion of the Flames, the other Fireborn and the other Initiate, and they both just did 2 moves and have ended up where you can see them right there. So it's all going to come down to the final turn. And at the end of round 3, here is just hopefully a better aerial view of what the table state looks like as we go into the 4th and final turn. There's no reinforcements to come on, so it's just going straight to the dice. Good dice finally sort of got rolled, and it might actually end up costing them. So the Scions of the Flame had a double 6, double 2. They've turned the double into a triple 6. But the Iron Golems rolled a quad 1, which, you know, some quads don't need the value of the die to be high, so fine. But they also rolled a double 4, so they used their wild die to make a triple, because why not? But that obviously means no singles at all. So it is the Scions of the Flame who activate first, and this could be a crucial first activation. This is going to seem poetically staged, but I assure you it was not. The Immolator activated, could not get over to the Dominar with just a 4-inch move, had to use a double. That was only a bad thing because, again, wanted that triple for Inferno, just to have extra chip damage, basically. But that rush got him close enough. He could get into combat, 4 attacks, strength 4 with a 2-5 damage split, so he's really looking for crits against a toughness 4, and he managed to get a single hit through and a crit. And that's crucial, because that's 7 damage on a model that's had 13 damage, takes him to 20, which is precisely enough that the Dominar has fallen and is out of there, which means it's all down to the plucky Chaos Dwarf at the top of his castle, just yelling his lungs out, who's got, how many wounds does he have left? He has 4 wounds left, I think. Yeah, it's all down to him. And another thing to note is the Immolator obviously kind of being in the way, although I can't remember if the Centurion Marshal has a rule for charging through enemy models. He might do. He might still be able to be a nuisance. Because if he completely blocks that bottom of the staircase, they're basically done, because there's no way they're getting through 35 wounds in a single turn. So yeah, it does kind of come down to the Centurion Marshal. He's not a monster, so he doesn't have any kind of trampling rule. I was mistaken. He does have a rule called Thundering Charge or Trampling Charge, which is a triple ability, but it doesn't let him walk through enemy models. It just says when he finishes a charge, he gets some free damage. So it came down to two 10-inch moves, but you can't go through enemy models, so the Immolator remaining there was indeed a problem. So what he had to do was kind of do a walk this way, climb up, go down, walk that way. Technically, I don't think he would have been allowed to climb up there because... Oh, actually, he has the Beast Rune mark, doesn't he? So I think that immediately stops him. We'll have to go double check that, because I thought the reason he couldn't fit up there is because his base literally couldn't, which I think is disallowed. That is where he would end up after a 10-inch move after that, which doesn't quite block the stairs, but does certainly kind of potentially stop someone depending on where their first movement action ends. Let's go double check that Beast Rune mark. The only stipulations seem to be they can't use stairs if you have the mounted rune mark. He's not really mounted, he is a mount, but whatever. And you can't use archways for like open doors and I presume like these gaps here, but it doesn't seem like he could be stopped clambering up there and moving there. As I say, because of having to go around that direction, it kind of doesn't put him in that bad of a place. But keep in mind, there is the Iron Legionnaire there also in the way. So between him and the Centurion Marshal, they have effectively blocked the stairs. It's just a case of trying to get through to them now. The initiate with that Morningstar / flail, I keep forgetting which one it is. Either way, he swung it around again outside of close combat range. He's got 3 inches on it and managed to get, he was looking for 5s, he got 3 normal hits through, no crits. A crit would have cinched it, but still managed to take that Legionnaire up to 7 wounds in total. He has 3 left. And that Iron Legionnaire's only goal is to be a meat shield, so there's no point activating him, and the Iron Breacher went instead and just out of spite walked up behind that initiate and managed to do, how much was it? 8, 9, 10, 12 damage. Yeah, 12 wounds just splattering the back of his skull into a fine paste. He's a 10 wound model. He is out of there. The other Fireborn activated got into combat against the Iron Legionnaire with shield. Again, looking for 5s. And managed to get 2 of them. She, however, does 2 base damage instead of the initiate's 1 base damage, so those 4 wounds is enough that the meat shield for the dwarf is gone, and now the path is open. Atop his little castle, the Chaos Dwarf activated and has hid as far back in there as he can possibly get, because the signifier can't get close enough to make a difference now. It's 1, can someone get to that dwarf, and 2, just manage to land, like even just 1 good hit will take him out. And you know what? That annoying little dwarf has done it. Because of moving back there, nobody can reach him in 1 move, even with rush, and they have no means by which to get any extra movement with a triple at all. The Brazen Lord was close, like you might notice they're slightly misplaced because measurements have been happening. The 2 best options were the Fireborn and the Brazen Lord, even with rush giving them 5 inches of movement, nowhere close to get up the stairs, and it would take a second move to get into close combat. The Brazen Lord's got 2 inches on that big spear thing of his halberd, but can't get close enough to swing in 1 hit. Either of them would have a pretty comfortable time finishing off the dwarf if they could land the hit, but sadly they cannot, so we're just going to call it there, and it is an Iron Golems victory. Well, behold your new god. There is a new Dominar in town, and it's not who you would expect. So hey, the list did better this time, and it came down to the wire, though that was very close. Sounds of the Flame underestimate how slow they are, but it feels like everything from the Catacombs era is slow. Obviously Nurgle is usually slow, but everything else, even like Chaos adjacent things, appear to just be suited for, maybe because they were released around Catacombs, the Catacomb hallways are tighter and twistier, so maybe they thought smaller movement ranges were better for the close-knit fighting. Not sure, but either way, yeah, they underestimated how slow they were. Would things have been different had the Scions of the Flame been having to defend the Priest and the Brazen Lord, the Blazing Lord, rather? Possibly. They did have a numbers advantage. The Centurion was scary, but still just 1 model. So, yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, obviously knowing how it turned out this way, them having been the defender might have worked out better, just because they had more bodies to throw at the Iron Golems. Either way though, that is the way this one shook out. This will be available early to channel members. If you do want to see this and many other series early and support the channel, please do consider becoming a channel member. You can also press the thanks button, or just liking and commenting and sharing all helps. If you check out the channel sponsor via the affiliate link, any purchases you make on anything, and they cover all manners of board games, miniature games, basically everything I play as well, I will get compensated if you buy anything after clicking through from that link. Either way, I appreciate you watching, thank you for doing so, and see you next time in the future. Until then, ta-ta for now.